Here I'll be discussing the story of Eid. Ibrahim alayhi salam's story is heavily linked to Hajj, but also we'll discuss my advice generally about Eid as well. What I've been asked to cover today is essentially about the Eid practice. Eid al-Adha is, of course, one of our Eids, our second Eid. Sometimes, and this is a fairly new term for me, maybe it's not a new term for many of you, people sometimes refer to it as a smaller Eid. I personally don't like labeling an Eid a small Eid. Eid is a Eid. The Prophet ﷺ has told us that we have two Eids. And when we say that we have a small Eid, we're belittling or kind of reducing our tradition a bit. And if you think about when it comes to other celebrations, right, how those are glorified. And I think there's a big movement in the UK amongst the fairly young middle-aged adults to bring back that Eid tradition to the young kids, because unfortunately, for many of us, it wasn't too, besides a family gathering in the evening, it wasn't too playful for the kids, right? Here I'll be discussing the story of Eid. Ibrahim alayhi salam's story is heavily linked to Hajj, but also we'll discuss my advice generally about Eid as well. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, what's happened to date in his life is that he's had this incident with his father. So I'm not going to go into the detail of these stories. They're quite widely available online, but I will provide a very, very quick overview run through. So Ibrahim alayhi salam had a discussion with his father. His father was an idol maker and he called him to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning Ibrahim alayhi salam called his father Azar to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone and not make these idols. And so eventually what happened is there's the big fire, they tried to burn him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved him, and he was able to come out of that unharmed. Now he came back to his father and his father said, if you continue to preach this, I'm going to kill you. So Ibrahim alayhi salam left on good terms with his father, saying salam, and then he needed to go somewhere else. He left with only his wife Sarah at the time and his nephew Lut alayhi salam. And so they left the area of Babylon, and they went to there was many incidences. So there was the incident of the king, oppressive ruler, who tried to steal all the beautiful women. And so, as a cutting the story short, the gift that they were given was Hajar alayhi salam, who would then be the second wife of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Then we get to the story of Zamzam, and in which case Ibrahim alayhi salam has been blessed with a son, Ismail alayhi salam. And Allah instructs Ibrahim alayhi salam to go to this barren land with Hajar alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam, a baby. Go there, and then he's instructed to leave without even telling them. And Hajar alayhi salam is saying to him, where are you going, where are you going? She then realizes this might be an instruction. So she asks, is this from Allah? He says yes, and she's content. If it's from Allah, that means Allah is going to take care of us. And this is tawakkul, when you trust that Allah will provide for you. And we all know the famous story where she ran up Safa and Marwa to look for people or look for birds, because that would indicate some sort of food for Ismail alayhi salam, who's crying. And then the Zamzam came out, and this was the city of Mecca. Mecca developed, and then as Ismail alayhi salam grew older, Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam together built the Kaaba. And then they made dua, accept our work, make this place full of halal, tayyib food, etc. Then we arrive to our present state here. The story of the sacrifice. This is where we are. So we've set the scene up of everything that's happened to date in Ibrahim alayhi salam's life. Many of those actions we still perform in Hajj. And then we have the story of the sacrifice, the Qurbani. Ibrahim alayhi salam sees a dream. And in this dream, he sees that he has to sacrifice his son Ismail alayhi salam. The dreams of the prophets are not like our dreams. The dreams of the prophets are revelation. They're wahi. So he's received this revelation that he needs to now sacrifice Ismail alayhi salam. The emotional side is Ibrahim alayhi salam has been trying to have a child for many years, and there's many people out there that have been trying to have a child, and some are able to, some are unable to. And this is one of the tests that they face in this world. One of the reasons that Sarah alayha salam gifted Hajar alayhi salam in marriage to Ibrahim alayhi salam was that so that he can potentially have children, because at that time Sarah was unable to have children, and so he, after many years, he was able to have that child. Then we have the ayat. Now this is in Surah Safat. So everybody, I'm sure, knows Surah Yasin, which is the 36th surah. The next surah is Surah Safat. In that, there's a description, and we've split it into two sections. The first here is ayah 99. So, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وقال إني ذاهب إلى ربي سيهدين. And so he said, indeed I will go to where I'm ordered to by my Lord. He will guide me. i.e. Ibrahim alayhi salam leaves his father and he goes to wherever Allah guides him to. رَبِّ هَبَ لِي مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. And so my Lord, grant me a child from amongst the righteous. And this is a dua, by the way, that those that want to have children, whether they want to have more children or want to have one child, this is a dua you can use. رَبِّ هَبَ لِي مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. فَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِغُلَامٍ حَلِيمٍ. So we gave him good tidings of a forbearing boy, a boy with halim, that was with a lot of forbearance. And this was Ismail alayhi salam. So he made dua, he got his child. فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعَهُ السَّعْيَ قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ. So when the child reached the age of maturity, when he became baligh, which is about 12, 13 years old, up to 15, that kind of range. Fathers generally enjoy that age with the children, because now, okay, we could do a bit more intense stuff with the child. Whereas with the kids, younger kids, you got a bit more softer. Now you can do a bit more physical activities. He says to him, Ya bunay, inni ara fil manam, anni adhbahuka fanzur madha tara. And this is an amazing lesson for parenting, by the way, here. He tells his son, I've seen a dream that anni adhbahuka, I have to sacrifice you, I have to slaughter you, I have to do the dhabah of you. Fanzur, have a look. Madha tara, what do you think? Why do I find this amazing for parenting? How old is the child? He's just turned baligh. He's in his teens. He's consulting with his child. And this is a parenting lesson. When it comes to, develop your child so that they start to have a say around things, develop their mindset, develop their ability to think about certain things. This is developing their wisdom. قَالَ يَا أَبَتِي. And look at his response. Look at the respect. Abati in Arabic is my beloved father. Ya abati, if'al ma tu'mar. Do as you've been instructed. He knew that he is a prophet, a messenger of Allah. And so Ismail says, do as you've been commanded. Look at this young age. He understands the commands of Allah. Satajiduni insha'Allahu min as-sabirin. Inshallah, you'll find me amongst those that are steadfast, meaning those that are patient. Now here, to be patient, it's not just about you're going through a tough time, you're going to be patient and things will get okay. Patience has many different levels. For example, you'll be patient not to do a sin. So you're tempted by a sin, you're having patience not to do that sin. You want to do a good deed and you're having patience to go and do that good deed. So there's different layers of patience. Now, on the route from when he was going to sacrifice Ismail salam, Shaitan came to him 3 times to try and stop him, and so he pelted him. And hence in Hajj we have the 3 jamarat, the 3 stations, the 3 pelting pillars. Those pillars aren't Shaitan, right? So don't think by pelting that thing you are pelting Shaitan. However, Hajj has many traditions or many acts that the family of Ibrahim alayhi salam had. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. فلما أسلم وتله للجبين. Now here, and when they both submitted, he put down his forehead. Meaning Ibrahim alayhi salam put down his forehead to offer the sacrifice. And as the story mentioned, Ismail alayhi salam said, you can turn me around so that I'm not looking at you in the eyes, because that might make it more difficult. So don't look at me in the eyes. if that makes it easier. Because I'm a Tajweed teacher as well, I have to mention a Tajweed point here. Do you see the word falamma, the very first word on top right, the next word aslama? Okay, here, if we don't do that little stretch at the end, aslama, it makes it singular. Okay, it makes it singular. Aslama with the stretch makes it dual. The ayah says when they both submitted. So if you just say this as aslama, the single without stretching, you're just saying when he submitted. You're changing the narrative. Here, فَلَمَّا أَسْلَمَا وَتَلَّهُ لِلْجَبِينِ. Okay, sorry, I'm a Tajweed teacher, so I just have to mention that aspect of it. And so when they did that and they're about to offer the sacrifice, وَنَادَيْنَاهُ أَن يَا إِبْرَاهِيمِ, and we, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, called out to Ibrahim saying, "O Ibrahim, قَدْ صَدَّقْتَ الرُّؤْيَا, you fulfilled your dream." Meaning you've done it. He hasn't sacrificed him, but it was that test. إِنَّا كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ, and thus do we reward the good doers. إِنَّ هَذَا لَهُوَ الْبَلَاءُ الْمُبِينَ, indeed this was a trial. وَفَدَيْنَاهُ بِذِبْحٍ عَظِيمٍ, and we ransomed him with a great sacrifice. So as an alternative, they gave the ram, a great sacrifice. And this is where we get the tradition of the Qurbani. So when it comes to this time of this Eid, we understand the other Eid. It's Ramadan has finished, it's a celebration. This Eid is Hajj. It is essentially the stories of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So when your child or when somebody asks you about what is the purpose of this is when Ibrahim alayhi salam was given a great trial, a very big trial of a sacrifice his son as a test. Of course, he didn't sacrifice Ismail alayhi salam, he was going to, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you fulfilled your test, you've done it. And then they gave the Qurbani, and the Qurbani is a sacrifice that is done. Now Ibrahim alayhi salam has such a high rank in our Islamic tradition, right? Christianity, Judaism and Islam are known as the Abrahamic faiths, Abrahamic traditions. In our religion, we all believe they were Muslim. Now what does a Muslim, what does it mean to be a Muslim? Somebody that submits their will. Somebody that submits their will to God. That is a Muslim. So Adam, Musa, Isa, Ibrahim, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam were all Muslims in that sense, right? Furthermore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken only 2 Khalil. Khalil is a very, very close, intimate friend. Very, very close friend. One is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the other is Ibrahim alayhi salam. Furthermore, Ibrahim alayhi salam had the honor of building the Kaaba. Furthermore, in our durood in Salah, when we say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim, upon Ibrahim, wa ala ali Ibrahim, and upon the family of Ibrahim. Yeah, so he's always mentioned throughout. There's many dua, Rabbi habli minas salihin, that we mentioned before. So Ibrahim alayhi salam in and of himself plays a great role in our religion. Qurbani, any Muslim that is baligh. So for the female, it's once she starts her cycle. For the male, it's once he has that wet dream, whatever age that is. So whether that's 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, whichever comes first, that incident or the age of 15, whichever comes first, if they have experienced that, they are baligh, they are officially adults in Islam. Meaning, they are accountable. The fard they have to do. Hence why the ages from 7 we're building them up. Right, from the age of 7, they should be praying some of the salah. By the age of 10, they should be praying all of it. So it's kind of introducing slowly. Otherwise, full whack, it's difficult to introduce. Inshallah, it's possible. Of course, many of us may have experienced that, right? And also nisab, which is about £300. A lot of the children have these bank balances, by the way, right? We give them Eid gifts and stuff like that, money, etc. It piles up. If they have that, they have to do Qurbani. Okay, the reason I mention this is because a lot of people mistakenly think it's once they earn a salary. It's not based on a salary, right? it is based on our tradition is based on once you become a baligh, and for this one it's nisab. Okay, nisab, which is about £300 worth. So like with zakah and qurbani, it's linked to nisab. Now I don't want to get too technical. Now it's to do with the proportion of a certain weighting of silver. It can be gold as well, but they generally take silver because then more people are able to get qurbani or pay zakah, and thus more people receive zakah. So it's based off the nisab. Now with zakah, nisab, I'm going to say nisab, but just imagine £300, roughly £300. If you want the actual figure, there's a website called Wifaqul Ulama. Just Google Wifaqul Ulama. Obviously they do local sites, so I do local citing, and but they have other stuff. They also have the nisab rates, so they'll tell you how much for zakah on silver, gold, and then nisab rate. Daily figures. It's quite up to date. So roughly about £300. With zakah, you have to have that for a year. If it might dip below, that's fine. So say for example, in January you had £300, May you had 250, but by the end of December you had 300, you'd pay zakah, which is 2.5%, which is, it's not a lot from £300, right? With qurbani, it's at that point. If at that point you have nisab, if you have £300, then you do qurbani. Now qurbani is performed on 10th, 11th, 12th date. One thing also to add is if you are doing qurbani, the Hanafi position is that it's mustahab not to cut your hair and nails. Any hair, by the way, not just the head hair, but any bodily hair and nails whilst that's happening, unless it gets to a length where you have to cut it, meaning it's gotten haram long, right? Nails get so long that the dirt is, it's really affecting you. You have to cut it, right? So with qurbani, it's the nisab. You have that. With other madhabs, by the way, that is a wajib ruling, meaning you can't cut. You have to not cut your hair, not cut your nails. Try to do local qurbani if you can. One of the sunnahs is to eat from the meat and distribute the rest to the poor. So eat from the meat. I know many of us do send it abroad, but try to send some abroad and try to do one at least here if you can. One thing that will help develop is to desensitize our children and also to develop a bit of resilience in our children, right? So if you think about blood, we need to develop a bit of resilience when we see blood. When it comes to meat, we just go to the meat shop and it's just, we don't see any blood. We might just see a tiny bit of blood and we're like, ugh, yuck. No. We need to develop this. This is part of our lives. So it's not necessarily specific about the blood for the children. Is it just a general point? So what I've come to notice, so from my position at Fussilat Academy, managing all these children, I feel, and this is my personal point of view, we need to build a bit more resilience in our children, right? We need to make them aware of the qurbani, for example, the blood. You could do that in the teens, but you don't have to do it from a young age. You don't want to traumatize them. I'm not saying take a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 year old to that. If you want to, that's up to you. You know your child best. But what I'm saying is make them aware of that kind of stuff. That is part of our tradition. Physically doing the qurbani. Qurbani is something that we're meant to do ourselves, right? Of course, the law of the land is that you can't really do it yourself, but at least try if you can to go and witness it, inshallah. The final and main thing I want to discuss is Eid with the family. Now, Eid is a time we have to spend with the family. We have to do things. We have to experience different Muslims. So there's different events. I know the History Museum has an event. I haven't looked too much into what the program is, but they have one on Saturday, which is quite nice. Sometimes there's fun days that appear as well. Try to be active with your children. Even take them to the pond, just take them to the park, picnic on the park. Make them feel like it's Eid. Decorate the house, make special food, get them involved with the activities. And by the way, I'm a very disciplinary dad in the sense that the kids have to learn with you. It's not like I don't like spoon feeding children. They need to develop. So when you're decorating the house, let them get involved with the decoration. When you're cooking things, let them get involved because they need to, learn this stuff. It's a shame to say it, but a lot of the adults are still kids because they can't do the basics, right? It's unfortunate to see. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us ease. But Eid with the family. If there's Eid in the park, go to that. That's a sunnah, by the way. Try to do that. So clarification, they have similar beliefs, not the same beliefs. They have certain so parts of their stories in the previous scriptures have a lot of incorrect mentions, because the Quran, obviously, we as Muslims, we believe the Quran is true, so they have contradictory points in their stories. So that's one thing to clarify, and I don't want to go too much detail about that, otherwise we'll be here for a long time. Yes, this Eid is part of our tradition because the Prophet ﷺ simply said that we have 2 Eids. So there are many traditions, just because the other religions, those are the prophets for them. We believe in all of the prophets. So next month we have Muharram, and the 10th of Muharram, which is a lot of the focus goes towards Karbala, but we're forgetting what the Prophet ﷺ said about Muharram, right? Which is the day that Musa alayhi salam was saved from Fir'aun. So and what the Prophet ﷺ replied back. So basically the story behind that, I think this is actually what hope answer your question. Prophet ﷺ asked the Jewish people in Medina, why are you fasting on this day? And they said, it is because this day Musa alayhi salam was freed from Fir'aun. Musa alayhi salam and Bani Israel was saved from Fir'aun. And Fir'aun was a huge tyrant, right? He would slaughter boys every 2 years. Biannually, or every 2 years, he would slaughter boys, right? And the Prophet ﷺ replied back saying, we have more right over Musa alayhi salam because the prophets are all brothers, right? They all go back, and we're all brothers. They're all brothers. So we have more right. And then basically the ruling came that we should fast another day to be different. So 9th or 10th is the ideal, or 10th and 11th. So from that, they are our prophets as well. The thing is that we have a new rule, which is the rule that time Muhammad ﷺ came. That is the new Sharia, right? The new rules, the new law. So if you think about when a law is outruled, when VAT used to be 17.5%, I can't now apply 17.5% VAT. I have to go with 20%. That's been outruled, right? I pray you all have a blessed Arafah. So those that are doing it today, make the most of it. Those that are doing it tomorrow, again, make the most of it. And for the Eid, I wish you all a blessed Eid. Remember that these are all part of the 10 days, blessed days of the year, including the Eid day, which is the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. Worship as much as you can. Qur'an, dua for the ummah, and anything I've said that is incorrect, I ask Allah to forgive me. And that was from myself and shaitan. And I ask for clarification, and anything that was good is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah to allow us to act upon that.